I'm Haley, a new mom in her 30s after a long fertility journey, figuring out motherhood one snack break at a time.
And I'm Susanne, navigating fertility after loss in my 40s while raising a teenager and still hoping for one more.
Welcome to Two Truths and a Hormone, the podcast where age gap meets egg counts
And real talk meets real emotion.
We're diving into infertility, womanhood, and everything the brochures forgot to mention. The truth is, it's messy.
The other truth, you're not alone.
And the hormone, well, she's along for the ride.
Hey guys, welcome back to Two Truths and a Hormone. I am your co-host, Susanne.
I'm your co-host, Haley. Welcome, everyone. To be fully transparent, this is actually the second time we are recording this episode. We recorded it a couple days ago. Fortunately, had a little bit of technical difficulties and the audio didn't come through, so we're having to do it again, but it's okay. You know, we learned that going forward, we always need to test the audio before recording the entire episode.
Of course. I mean, I can't believe I did that. You came through perfectly clear, and then there was me, and it was like you said, talking. Like you were talking to yourself.
I sounded like a crazy person.
I know. When Scott helped me set all this up, he showed me all the buttons to push to make sure you were heard, and I did not realize there was a button I needed to make sure was pushed to make sure I was heard. So.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's only our second episode, so I mean, we're learning. I feel more bad for you because this is like a mainly you episode, and like I know the other day was emotional, and unfortunately you're having to do it again. So I feel really bad about that. How are you? Are you feeling any different, or how are you feeling now that you're are having to do it again?
I don't know. Today I was more upset, just not even that I had to do it again, just that I messed up so big, and you know, in my eyes, so big. It's really not in the grand scheme of things, but so I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna affect my emotions through this. If I'm just gonna be ticked off. I don't mind telling my story again. I mean, I am very much an open book. In fact, I was kind of thinking to myself, I was really glad it wasn't for your story, because I know your story is one, like, I know I've heard bits and pieces of your story, but I've never heard your story in full, so I don't know how that is gonna go for you. And so I'm like, okay, if it's gonna happen to one of us, I'm okay if it happens to me. I can truck through it. I don't know if I'll be as emotional or not. So I hope that if I'm not, it still comes across the meaning behind it. I think that's one thing. Like, this is not scripted. You know, we come and we have an idea of what our episode's gonna be about, but none of it's a script. So some of it's just us kind of rambling around. So, I think as long as I can still get my story across, that's fine. And if there are tears, I have my handy dandy roll of toilet paper still. Do you have your handy dandy Kleenex box?
I do.
Yep.
Yeah, last episode we talked about how Susanne was type B and I'm type A, and you can tell by our Kleenex options.
Very much so, yes. Haley is very much the one who has the decorative pillows for the holidays and all the things, which I love. I love living vicariously through you and seeing your pictures. As much as I would love to say that I want to be that, I just don't have that in me, I don't think.
Well, it's probably going to change. I mean, now that I have a kid, like, I'm not going to be able to have all of the fun stuff out. So.
Now it's all going to be kid-geared fun stuff. Like, it's fun. Like, I remember when Bella was little, we had, like, a Fisher-Price Little People nativity scene, and like I've seen the Fisher-Price Little People are cool now. They have like the Friends theme. They have the Hocus Pocus one.
Yeah, they're popping off recently.
Yeah, so you can get Hocus Pocus for Halloween. Like, come on, you'll be great.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I guess I will get started retelling my story. So Scott and I have been dating. We'll have been dating. I mean, we're not dating anymore. We're married, obviously. But it will have been dating. It would have been 4 years in December. And we have been married. It'll be 2 years in December since our wedding. I I'm kind of bummed because during our first episode, I kind of got to, well, not our first episode, the first recording of this episode, kind of got to drop a bomb on you, and now I don't get
I
that reaction
know. I was
anymore.
thinking about that on the way home from work. I was like, man, there was such a good
It was
reaction, and
such a
we're just gonna
good
have to talk about it now, though. But it's okay.
Um,
So what was the bomb?
the bomb that I dropped was actually Scott and I got married legally in with a JP in July 2 years ago. So it'll be 2 years in July. So one thing that Scott and I had always kind of talked about when we were dating is we had like kind of a list of do's and don'ts that we were willing to do within a relationship. Depending on where we were in the relationship. And when it came to, we had three big ones. No kids unless we were married. No joining of accounts unless we were married. And no, big joint purchases. I'm going to get that word out eventually. So that was like cars, houses, anything like that. Just, I had been through a divorce. Things can get icky, things like that. And for a story for an entirely different type of podcast, we found ourselves having to kind of move rather quickly. So we got engaged in May. We ended up moving out of where we were living and moved in with Scott's parents. They were very gracious and gave up 3 of their bedrooms for us. So Scott was in one, I was in one. Bella was in another. We had our 80-pound lab, and they had their German Shepherd, and it was great, and they were so accommodating, but it was rough on absolutely everybody. And so we kind of, our plan had been to be there a year, but we're like, let's start looking at houses just to kind of see. And we happened to find one and made an offer, and it was accepted. And within like we made an offer July, I think it was 7th. We were closing on the 29th. And I kind of made a joke once we knew the offer was accepted. I was like, what are we going to do? We're not married and we're buying this house. And Scott's like, oh, we're going to have to get married. And I was like, haha, yeah, we're getting married in December. Like, invitations had been out, wedding dress purchased. He's like, no, I think we should go to the JP and get married. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, wait, like, we've already started paying for this wedding. People are invited. People are buying their dresses and suits for the wedding. Like, we're still having like a wedding. Because Scott had never been married, and we wanted to have that, and we wanted to get married in our church, and that was really important for both of us. And so we agreed just to kind of keep it between us. So on the 29th, we went that morning, closed on our house, went home, got dressed and changed, and then his parents and Scott and I and Bella, our daughter, went to the JP and got married that afternoon, but we didn't tell anyone. And there were a couple, like, it wasn't anything we were ashamed of. We weren't embarrassed by it. Like, it was something we chose to do, but we wanted our wedding in December to be our wedding. Like, we wanted that to be the focus. It was very important for us to have that in front of our friends and family and at the church, and so we just kind of kept it between us. And now that it's gone on for a while, I've mentioned it offhandedly to people before, and I got to drop that bomb on you a couple days ago, and your reaction was beautiful. I mean, you're more than welcome to reenact it. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I don't want to see my bad acting. But do y'all consider the date in July? Like, do y'all celebrate that as an anniversary, or are y'all celebrating that date?
We celebrate in December, and when I say celebrate, like, it's like, oh, happy anniversary. So we kind of, we kind of actually say happy anniversary for both. It's more for us the wedding, the marriage in July. Yes, we were legally married. I didn't change my name. I didn't do any of that till after our wedding in December. It was something that for us just kind of spoke on a personal level of the commitment we wanted to have if we were moving forward in certain ways. And no judgment if people don't do that, or, with my first marriage, I didn't. Well, we did like apartments. We didn't buy a house till we were married, but we joined our bank account and things like that. And, you live, you learn, and things like that, and kind of go from there. So it wasn't, we judge people who don't do it that way or whatever. It was just something that was, for us, that was really important to kind of honor. And then still have that marriage so like our preacher ended up knowing, because we had to meet with him to kind of go over what we wanted for our wedding. I was like, hey, by the way, there's not a marriage license. We're already married. So yeah, in fact, I had wondered, this part we didn't talk about, when y'all came down for our wedding in December, y'all got to our house before us, and I was like, hey, look around. whatever. And I didn't know. I figured, if you're like me and someone say, hey, look around the house, I'd be like, I'm going to go in every bedroom. And I didn't know if y'all went in our bedroom. We actually had our marriage license framed. And I was like, oh, do I need to take that off the wall? And Scott's like, no, it's fine.
No, I'm not going to go and start looking through drawers. Personally, I don't want to be surprised by anything that
I didn't
don't
say
need to see.
drawers. I said look around. Like, you can open a bedroom door. Now I know not to walk into your bedroom if I ever come to your house.
You just never know what you're going to find in people's houses.
That's very true. That's very true.
There's a reason why doors exist and close the doors and everything. So I don't want to get into that.
Nothing. So that was the bomb that I dropped in the first episode, the first recording of this episode. But so we technically were married, but we didn't start trying until December. Once we knew, that it was, hey, I had a wedding dress that I thought I looked good in. I did not want for it to not fit. So we started trying in December. And one thing, if I could go back now and do things differently from when we first started trying, is Scott really never got we're just going to try for a baby, right? Like, I was 40 when we got married. Was I 40 already? I was 40 when we got married.
Yeah, so you said December. So to clarify, that was December 2023.
Yes. So yeah, I was 40.
40, yeah.
So I was very much aware of kind of my biological clock ticking. You hear, your eggs going bad, all that kind of fun stuff you get to hear as you get older. And so, I mean, even before we started trying, you had turned me on to, it's called Temp Drop. It's a band you wear for basal body temp tracking. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, you track your body temperature each morning. And there's a shift that occurs after you ovulate and your hormones are changing to kind of prepare your body to prepare for a fertilized egg. Basically, the scientific part of it. Just to kind of track my cycle. I mean, I was very regular, always have had a very, very regular cycle, but just to kind of know more about it. Doing ovulation test strips just to make sure I was ovulating, when I was ovulating, kind of getting those things going on. And Scott never got to experience trying for a baby without all of that. Right now, he's a guy, he doesn't know, right? Like, very rarely am I like, hey, I've ovulated, let's go. Like, right, like, every once in a while I'm like, ooh, look.
Even like women don't really know. Like, when we started, like, it's sad, but like, I'm sure I was taught it in elementary school.
No, we're taught about really, like a period, but that's it.
Yeah, like you just, like, you could only get pregnant like 6 days of your cycle, like if you have regular cycles and everything. And it's like, so you just don't. Not all women even know that. So
no, or like sperm live for 5 days, which I didn't know. Like that, I didn't know. So I do wish I could redo that for him. He's never commented, because again, a lot of times it was more like I was texting you like, hey, does this like an ovulate, positive surge or whatever, but it was never like, okay, I ovulated, get home, get your pants off, anything like that, right? Which, hey, I guarantee there are some people that get to that point and you hear about that. And I know that's going to be an entirely different podcast, but just, I mean, even as we've been to doctors, like one of the big things they've always, don't have it be a chore, don't have it be, you know, and that's a very, very fine line. And I catch myself with that a lot. Yeah. So we started trying in December, didn't get pregnant, January, February, and then in March, I was 8 DPO, which is 8 days post-ovulation. So you ovulate, that's the prime time to kind of get pregnant, and then the egg implants, and that's when you start, doing all the things to lead to a pregnancy. And I remember it vividly, we were at my in-laws' house for opening day of baseball. They are big Texas Ranger fans, and so we were watching that, and my mother-in-law makes a broccoli salad that I love. And broccoli always kind of makes me a little bit, burpy. But I felt really bloated, whatever. And I went home. I was tired. It was a work day. So I was going to go home and come back, and I was going to take Bella home because she definitely was not wanting to watch baseball. And I was going to come back and pick Scott up. And I took a pregnancy test, and 2 lines came up very, very quickly. And so I took a digital test, and it said pregnant. And I mean, I was ecstatic because we had tried for December, January, February. This was my March cycle, so this was our fourth month of trying, because really if I had waited to a missed period, it would have been beginning of April when I tested positive. And I always was like, I could have a miscarriage, it's possible I'm old, all the things. And with Bella, I had really bad morning sickness. I threw up my entire pregnancy through my labor and delivery. And so about 5 weeks, maybe into 6 weeks. So way earlier than I had with Bella. I mean, I was puking left and right. And there's... So when I was pregnant with my daughter, the second doctor's appointment we went to, they did a Doppler for the heartbeat, and they couldn't get it. She wasn't far enough along. And I remember asking, like, how do we know everything's okay? And she's like, all this puking you're doing, great sign. You're making a good home for your baby. So I'm like, oh my God, okay, I can do this. And the doctor I was with this pregnancy wouldn't see you till 8 to 9 weeks. And so we had an appointment at 8.5 weeks to go in. And I mean, puking multiple times a day, all day, from the minute I woke up, to the point that, like, Scott was Googling, like, he was concerned. And at about 7 weeks, I'm like, I can't wait. Like, I need to make sure everything's okay. And so we had gone to a private ultrasound boutique. And they don't do internal ultrasounds. They only do external. And so it's hard to see a baby that small. And so it took her a long time to find the baby. And she did. And there was a heartbeat. We couldn't hear it, but we could see it. I don't remember the beats per minute, but it was a strong heartbeat. And so we felt safe. So his parents had known, but we swore them to secrecy. And I had told you. Because you were pregnant, y'all had just done your IVF cycle, and we'll talk about that next episode. But I'd always said that I would let you know privately. So if there were any feels, whatever the feels were, you had that time. But we told the rest of our friends. We gave our in-laws permission to tell their friends. Told the rest of Scott's family, and we were safe. I remember crying on the bathroom floor, telling Scott, I don't know how I'm going to do this for 9 months, because I was so exhausted from puking already. And what's funny is I'd give anything to be back there. So we woke up the morning of our pregnancy confirmation appointment, puking. I couldn't even drive at that point. And we got there, and we went back for our ultrasound, and the tech started with an external, and you could kind of see the top of the baby's head. But I have what's called a floppy uterus, so it kind of flops over, and then as you get pregnant, it expands, I guess, for lack of a better word. And so we did an internal, and you could see the baby, and I was like, oh, is that the baby? And she's like, yep, we'll be right there. And she started she's like, I gotta take some measurements of your ovaries. And I look back now, and I know she knew what she was gonna have to tell us. But she had to do her job. And then she went to the baby, and it's ingrained in my head because it looked like a perfect cookie shape of a gingerbread man. I don't know why that's what it looked like. And I remember thinking, oh, it's not moving. I'm like, well, maybe she hasn't pushed the button to pick up the heartbeat, whatever. And then she said, there's no heartbeat. And our baby was measuring 9.5 weeks. And so she suspects that it had stopped probably a couple days before. Um, and my entire world just fell apart. I remember just screaming, "No, God, no, not my baby." And Scott was holding me and he had his head down. And she left to go tell the doctor and, let us get cleaned up and took us into one of the patient's rooms waiting for the doctor. And we waited for an hour. And the doctor kind of walked in. She was real nonchalant about it. Oh, it happens. It's 1 in 4. And she gave us 3 options. The first was to go home and see if I miscarried naturally. And in that hour, I knew there was no way. Because, I already had a baby registry made. Like, I thought we were safe. I had the app, the what size is your baby, and whether it's true or not, I felt like I would see something if I had miscarried, and there was just no way I could handle that. And we were debating doing genetic testing. And so the other option was to do misoprostol. I think I said that right. It's pills that you insert that induce it. I don't want to say a miscarriage because I've already miscarried. The baby's gone, but to get everything out.
Right.
Or a DNC. And we chose to do a DNC. And I remember talking to her about it. I was like, and she's like, we'll do the DNC. We'll monitor, your hormone levels, your HCG, all that. If we see that it's not going down, then we would do another ultrasound because, there may be fetal tissue left in. And I was like, how, you won't know if there is. She's like, well, you can't see anything. You just go in and okay. So we went and we did our DNC and we were supposed to go back at, I believe, 3 weeks after that for a follow-up. And we got a call 2 days before that appointment that pathology called and that the sample had no fetal tissue in it. And I was at work by myself. I didn't know what that meant. So I went and got Scott. We went straight to the doctor's office begging to have an ultrasound because in my head, I just see my baby still in my body.
Yeah.
And the ultrasound tech was so nice, and she was able to squeeze us in. She's like, you're not going to be able to see the doctor today. I'm like, that's fine. I need to know what's in me. And there was blood, within me. And she saw what she couldn't confirm 100%, but what looked like it may have been like blood still going to something, which would mean that there was tissue left behind. So we left. The doctor ended up calling me about 30 minutes later and said, don't come in 2 days. I'm going to prescribe you a round of misoprostol. You'll do 2 rounds of that. So you insert the pills and then 8 hours, I think it's 8 hours or 12 hours later, you insert another round. And that was the end of May. So we lost the baby in May. And so, did that and went back 2 weeks later. And by this time, we already knew that we were going to be finding a different doctor. We just weren't real pleased with kind of how everything had been handled. So went back, had another ultrasound with a different ultrasound tech who didn't see my old scan. So she's like, oh, I don't know if this is tissue or not. It doesn't look like there's any blood going to it, but I'm not sure if it's still tissue. So when I saw the doctor, she's like, well, we're going to do another round of pills. And it was just very kind of like, and she's followed that with, and if that doesn't work, you'll have to do another DNC. And I was left in tears. I hadn't been asked once how I was doing, how I was feeling, how I was handling everything.
I think also, like, at this point, this had been going on for,
Months.
what, like a month?
So,
Like,
yeah, a month since we had lost the baby. Yeah.
yeah. So like you were still having to deal with all of this and like it just wasn't ending. And like
It wasn't ending, and
you couldn't move
you
on.
couldn't mourn, you couldn't move on.
Yeah.
All I wanted was normalcy. And so, you're for each round of pills, each round of DNC, you abstain from sex, all the
Yeah.
things, which is fine. That's fine. But there was also part like I needed to know my body was okay. I needed to know I was normal. I needed that connection with my husband in that
Yeah.
moment. Um, and yeah, it was like I couldn't. Like I thought if it was all said and done, I could move on. I know now
Yeah.
there's no moving on. There's moving forward.
Right.
But it's
Right.
not like okay, it's done. It's in a box. Goodbye.
Right.
Um, so we did the next round of pills. Went for an ultrasound, and they're like, "Yeah, no, I think you're okay. It looks like this may be tissue still, but I think you're okay." And then by that time, I had already found another doctor I was going to, and I had a follow up appointment the next day because I'm like, I'm not getting a DNC again until I get a second opinion. So went to this doctor, and what's funny is he's a man. My first doctor was a female, and I've had better experiences with my male doctors, which some people are not
Yeah.
comfortable with that, and that's fine. But with my male doctors than my female doctors. He's this elder man. He's amazing. Um, his staff is amazing. And they did an internal ultrasound. He's like, nope, everything's good. Go ahead and start trying. I said, well, my last doctor told me I had to wait till my first cycle. He's like, nope, no reason. He's like, your body's primed, and everything you read the first 3 months, you're ready to go. You
Well,
have
even the fact that he was like so sure, but and then you had just left the previous day and she's like, I think you're good.
yeah,
Like, am I good or not?
yeah.
Like, and the
Well,
fact
because
that
then I'm
he was
like, am
so
I gonna get an
able to
infection?
compensate.
Is
Yeah.
there something
Yeah.
in me rotting away, and then you're gonna be like, oh, we have to take your uterus, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
just. And she was like, no, I think okay.
That's
So,
crazy.
um, so we started trying again, and uh my cycle actually didn't come back until July, and it actually took us taking me taking progesterone to kind of induce a cycle. But my cycle came back in July, and we didn't get pregnant that cycle. The beginning of September, because it was Scott's birthday, I was 7 DPO, and I took a pregnancy test because I wanted to have a positive pregnancy test on his birthday, and it wasn't, and I was bummed and I was upset. And then 2 days later, we were driving to work, and I just had this awful, it was like this burn, just this awful burn where I would normally like cramp. And I'm like, this does not feel like normal cramping. And so I took another test, and it was positive. Um, and I went and showed Scott, and that day we told his parents. We didn't tell anyone else. We were very cautious this time. And I was like, I'm not going to make a baby registry. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And then I ended up seeing my therapist. She's like, if you want to make a registry, make it. If you want to do this, do that. Like, enjoy each moment. And so I did. I did not get sick. I did get um, really sore boobs. And this doctor lets you come in at 7 weeks. So you go in at 7 weeks for an ultrasound with the nurse practitioner, 10 weeks with the doctor, and then every month, and you get an ultrasound every month at this doctor. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So we went in, and I mean, I was already crying, kind of walking in, just because the fear of it happening again.
Yeah.
And we did another internal ultrasound because, Wanda and I, as you know, Wanda becomes
I've
very
gotten
close friends
yeah.
as you deal with fertility.
Me and Wanda
Yeah.
are like this.
Yeah. I'm waiting for her to take me on a date first, but,
No, she never does.
She never does. She always makes me pay. I'm like, what?
She gets very up close and personal for sure.
And so they went in, and they do the little measurement. So it's like they click, and then there's a line, and they click, and they did that. And I saw 6 weeks, 2 days. And I knew right then. And she tried to find a heartbeat. She thinks she saw flickers. Sometimes I wonder if she really did, or if she was just giving me hope.
Yeah.
And so we started talking about when my ovulation was. Was I sure when my ovulation was? I mean, she was doing it. She was pulling out like this little spinny thing to figure out, and maybe I ovulated later. And then I said I tested positive at 9 days post ovulation.
And you had your
And I
you were
had my basal
checking
body
your
temp, and
temps, so you're like pulling up, like, look at this right here. I
this
have
is
all
when I
of this
tested positive. This
information.
is my
Yeah.
temp change. This is when we
Yeah.
had sex, all the things. And
Yeah.
her face just fell. And I knew.
Yeah.
And she knew. And Scott was sitting there, and she's like, okay, I want you to do some blood work. You're going to come back next week, because I think this is a Friday. And, we'll see. We'll see if it's grown. And so they walk out, and I start getting dressed, and Scott just looks up, and he just said, I don't understand what's happening. I said, we're losing another baby. And so my blood work had shown dropped progesterone. And we moved our appointment from Wednesday, like our follow-up appointment, from Wednesday to Monday. And we went in, and it hadn't grown. The doctor came in and said, yeah, that there should be a heartbeat with that. I think it went up to like 6 weeks, 4 days. Like, it hadn't grown what it should have. And so we had another D&C that day. They were great. They were able to get me in and find a way to get it done right away. And it was so funny. And I said, how can we guarantee you can get everything this time? Because I don't want what happened last time to happen. And he kind of looked at me and said, what are you talking about? And I told him, and his face just fell, and he said, no. He said, when we do a D&C, we do it with an ultrasound to guide me. So I will make sure that we get everything. And so we did elect to have genetic testing sent off. And so the results showed trisomy 22, which is not viable with life. And so that was our second baby that we lost. I know what that baby was. That's something I'll never share. I didn't want to know. I was reading the report and I found it. There's a lot of first that Scott doesn't get to experience again. If we're ever blessed with a full-term pregnancy, he's never going to get to experience the first ultrasound, seeing the first heartbeat. He'll get to experience hearing it the first time, and he'll get to hear what we're having. And I won't take that away from him. I'll carry whatever burden I have, knowing that. And it's funny because I was talking about it the other day, and he looked at me, and he's very guarded. I mean, I've never seen him cry with either of these miscarriages. And he's like, you can never tell me. And it was kind of a window into, okay, this is not as laissez-faire. He's doing fine with it, like I thought. So that was in October that we lost that baby. And we started trying again. And in January, I had a weird cycle. I've been a serial early tester, and so, I kept getting negatives. But the day of my period, I had a temp spike, which I thought was weird. And my period didn't start. So I was like, well, I'm going to take another test. And I remember sending it to you, and it was one, it looked positive, but the color wasn't there. So we're like, is it an indent line? I don't know. And so I took a digital, and it said pregnant. And I told Scott, and we didn't tell anyone this time, not even his parents. Because I didn't feel, I didn't feel comfortable with it because I tested positive so late. It just made me feel like something wasn't right. So called the doctor, made an appointment to get my blood work done, got that done. Well, not that day. The appointment was the next day. Woke up the next morning and took 2 pregnancy tests, and they were negative. And I knew I was having a chemical pregnancy. Still went and got my blood work done, and so the first round showed, I think progesterone was under 10, or something. It was low enough that if it was a viable pregnancy, they would have had to put me on progesterone. But they wouldn't do that until my HCG was over 25, and it was a 7. And so they did do a second draw 2 days later. and it was 0, and I started my period the next day. So I was pregnant for 12 hours maybe. And we haven't had a positive since. And it's been really hard because it's like we were pregnant for 9 weeks, and then we were pregnant for 6 weeks, and then, technically you're pregnant from the day of your last period, so 4 weeks. And it just keeps going down to where now it's like, okay, I don't think it just doesn't feel like it'll ever happen again. But because we had the 3 losses, we did all of the blood work to see if, there was infections or autoimmune or anything like that. My AMH is normal for my age, which is 0.1. So I do have diminished ovarian reserve. And so kind of the consensus of everything is I just have bad eggs. And it only takes 1 egg. So as long as I'm ovulating, I'm dropping an egg. But the concern is as you start getting a lower number and as you are aging, the quality of the eggs you have are not great.
Yeah.
So we went and talked to a fertility clinic. If we were to do IVF with my eggs, we are looking at less than a 3% chance of a viable pregnancy with my eggs, whether it's natural or IVF. So we talked about doing IVF with a donor egg, which is still on the table. The reality of that is years from now, because that comes with about a $40,000 price tag. It's not covered by insurance. Even if I had insurance that covered IVF, it wouldn't cover a donor egg. It would cover all the treatment for myself. So right now, we just keep trying. I think the hardest part is next month will be 6 months of trying, which I know isn't long, but it's the longest we've ever gone without a positive test. And it's the time that if we'd never been pregnant, and given my age, if we had been trying for 6 months, we would be making an appointment to kind of start running tests and seeing what's going on. So, I feel like I need to do something about it, but the reality is there isn't anything to do. We've already done all the tests. We've already met with all the people. I think it was really hard because Scott's always been so positive about it all. It'll happen. And after we met with the fertility clinic, he finally said, I think it'll still happen, but not without IVF. And there's this fear. Scott's amazing, but there's this fear that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, on his deathbed, I don't know, that there will be resentment there that he didn't get to be a dad. He's never done anything to make me feel that. In fact, he does the opposite. Yeah. But it's hard.
I mean, that's a natural thought. I mean, I've been there, obviously it takes 2 people to make a baby. When you get your partner tested and everything comes back fine, and then it's just...
Oh, it kills you.
Yeah, because it's just...
It kills you. I knew everything would come out fine because, right before he had to go do it, he's like, I don't think there's a problem. You've gotten pregnant 3 times. I'm like, okay, I'm going to throat punch you, but yes, you're right. But I'm like, no, but we'll still get it checked, just to make sure. And, they called and they went over the results. And I remember hanging up the phone and just becoming hysterical because it meant it was all me.
Yeah.
And then... Yeah. One thing I learned talking to the fertility doctor, because when we went to go meet with him, and I was like, our second loss was trisomy 22, maternal side, so it was all my fault. And he's like, well, we don't say that. And he's like, but I need you to understand something. And he's like, the sperm fertilizes the egg. It brings, the DNA from the dad to the egg. He's like, and then that's it. And he said, and what happens is the egg does all the work. And, he was cracking jokes about it to Scott.
Yeah.
And he's like, so the egg will pull, half of the DNA, the chromosomes from the dad, half from the mom, throw out what it needs to, whatever. He's like, so if the egg messes up and pulls extra of, like, in my case, chromosome 22, it just happened to be that it didn't get rid of the second pair from me. It kept mine. So it had 2 from me and 1 from Scott. He said it could have done the opposite and kept 1 from you and pulled 2 from Scott. And so it, like, he didn't mean it this way, but then I'm like, so it's even more my fault because it's my egg's fault. And it's like, we always talk about, guys have it so easy, 2 minutes and then 9 months for the mom, whatever. But it starts at such a more, like, such at a deeper level. Like, before you even know you're getting pregnant, you're doing all the work. And then there's nothing, no one knows if it, like, truly, right? Like, I know there's ads like, oh, take this supplement, take this, and there are things that have shown to help. But no one can say, oh, this will improve AMH. Oh, this will improve egg quality. It like 100%, right? Like, and I'm like, are there studies out there for any of it? Like, do we even care anymore? It's great that we've gotten to the point of IVF or, like, a donor egg, knowing that if we do IVF and do a donor egg, it takes the clock off of my back in the sense that they can implant an egg, a fertilized egg, at any time. You can have gone through menopause, they give you medication, make you bleed, and implant. Now, my fertility clinic won't do it past the age of 52. Yeah. Which, no thank you. Yeah. And I say that now, like, I remember sitting there saying, like, I won't do it past 45, and now that Scott and I, like, have truly sat down and been like, if we do this, it's years from now, I'm like, maybe I could do 47, and, I won't know until I get there. And it's like, and what are we gonna do about it? Like, it blows my mind that we still know so little about reproduction for the female.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and we talked about this in the first recording that we did for this, and it was, I think that's just the thing, though, with just in general with just experimenting with women things in general. Like,
yeah, you talked about,
like feminine products. Like, I don't think they have been tested like with women and stuff actually in mind until, like, the last, like, 10 years.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Like, these are products that we have been using way longer than 10 years, and they're just now, like, actually doing testing on it. So, like,
or, like, they're just now like, oh, maybe the cervix does have nerves and we should give you something when you're doing an IUD, because I've had an IUD once in my life and I will never do it again.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah, but, like, it's just insane how little testing has been done on women, which is a whole other, goes down to, like, a whole rabbit hole with that stuff about just, I'm sure there's a million tests on sperm quality and whatnot. So,
and so we're doing supplements and all the things that, both the fertility doctor and my OBGYN have recommended. One of which I think is causing me to grow oh my gosh, chin hair. Chin hair. I started by saying hair chin.
I like chair
chin hair.
Yeah.
So, I'm tired. This is what happens when we record at night. Once I go back to work, our podcasts are going to be unhinged. We should change the title to, like, 2 Truths and a Hormone After Dark.
Yeah, seriously.
Anyway, so doing all the supplements, then also falling for some of the gimmicks as well.
Yeah.
And one thing that the nurse practitioner, when I went after my chemical, she was really honest when we were going over the AMH, and she's like, I don't see you having a baby without IVF. And she said, but I'm not going to tell you not to keep trying. She said, I will tell you, it looks like your body doesn't really, when you, like, truly have an established pregnancy, your body doesn't let it go. So it would, possibly mean more DNCs. And if you're comfortable with that, that's fine. And she said, but you and your husband have to check in on where y'all are at. And right now, we're not at a place of wanting to stop. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever get to that place, just because
Yeah.
the door's not closed until I close it.
Mhm.
But it's hard, right? Like, as terrified as I am to get a positive pregnancy test, because I'm absolutely terrified. I am more terrified to not get one, because at least one positive gives you hope. And
Yeah.
without that positive, there is no hope each month. I mean, there is, and like, well, hopefully next month, right?
Yeah, it's not the same.
It's not. But having that positive, even though it may not end in a baby, knowing there's a chance, versus without a
Yeah.
positive, there's not a chance, right? Um, and so it's been hard. I mean, and I'm not trying to say woe is me or poor me or anything like that, because everyone has
Hey,
their own
this
stories.
is this is your story. I mean,
But
you lived it. It's hard. It doesn't matter if somebody else's is longer or whatever. It's still your story, and it was still hard.
so we'll see what happens. It was just this week that I've kind of finally out loud said, and Scott's like, yeah, I was like, we're years away from IVF, aren't we? Like, because when we met with them, we're like, okay, we'll give us a year, like, we're gonna figure out, and there's no way.
Mhm.
And and the hard part is, because everyone, they meet, well, they're like, well,
Yeah.
what about insurance? So I'm like, yep, my job doesn't cover it. Sure, I could get a job that did. They wouldn't cover the surrogate part, or not the surrogate, the donor part.
Yeah.
And like 30,000, 29,000 of it is that part, right? Like, my part's this much. Um, there are grants, and those are amazing. When you read about them, one of the first things, they go for people who don't have kids already. So there's that. And every single one requires documentation. Every one that I have found. Let me preface with that. Requires documentation from your doctor that you have a diagnosis of infertility. And I don't, because I can get pregnant.
Do you think, would you be considered infertility once you hit the 6-month mark of trying without a pregnancy?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I could make an appointment and talk to them about that. That I don't know.
But even
Um,
still, like grants, like yeah, you can apply
like
for them, but
one,
like
you pay
it
to apply,
takes a long time
and
to
you
even
pay
get a
to apply
response.
for them, and then
Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna go for the 20-year-old, 20,
Yeah.
like your
A lot of
story,
them,
right?
a
Like
lot of
a
them
younger
also
couple,
have an
and
age limit, like so.
a couple that's tried for years and they've never gotten pregnant,
Yeah.
and things like that. And then a lot of them are like, max $1,000, and you have to use it within a year. Well, I'm looking at needing to fund $40,000, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is not in our plan.
Right.
So we are not the type that are like, oh yeah, let me tap into my savings for that. So yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. Which is terrifying, and it's not anything I can control, which is terrifying. And I'm having to be better about, like, because I do my body temp tracking and ovulation testing and things like that, of like, well, we had sex on this day, but not on this day. Oh, next month I should do this, and like, no. We're not going down that rabbit hole. And so yeah, so I don't know. I think next month will be hard if it comes and
Yeah.
goes. I mean, every month is hard.
Yeah.
So that's my story. I'm hoping maybe one day it'll have a different ending. And if not, we'll make the best life out of what we have. And Scott is an amazing, I call him a step up dad for Bella. And I know it's not the same, coming into someone's life at 11 or 12. Like, it was funny. She has a friend that's a boy with a certain name, And then she was staying at another friend's house that had the same name. And so I was talking to this guy. I was like, oh, yeah, Bella's at so-and-so's house. And he's like, what? I was like, girl so-and-so, not boy so-and-so.
The girl, not the boy.
And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, what would you have done if I had said the boy? And he's like, I would have been like, are you sure on that choice? And I'm
Are
like,
you
you wouldn't have
okay?
challenged me on it? He's like, well, no, I just would have been like, that's a really interesting choice. Are you sure? And I said, well, what if we had a daughter,
Yeah.
tomorrow and 10 years from now, I'm like, oh, she's going to go stay in so-and-so's house. He's like, oh, yeah, no. Right? Like, and it's not that he doesn't love Bella like his own, but
Trees.
there's
Yeah,
boundaries and things like that. And
it's
so,
complicated. It's complicated.
it's hard. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope and I pray and, but we'll see. Right now, the hope's a little bit harder to hold on to.
Yeah. I mean, it's the longest y'all have gone, so I mean that's really understandable. But you just gotta take it one step at a time, unfortunately.
Yep, and I think, right now my IVF doctor was super very nice about it, but was dropping hints on the ideal BMI for pregnancy and IVF, which I am not at. And so working on that. I'm actually working on that with you through your classes.
Yes.
So I think just trying to shift my hyperfixation spiraling into more productive, getting healthier for myself. And if it leads to a pregnancy, great. And if not, that's okay too, and go from there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to dive into that with you. But thank you for sharing, Suzanne. I mean,
for the second time.
I know, for the second time. I hate that you had to do it all over again.
Right.
But there's somebody that this is gonna resonate with. It might not be in the next few days. Somebody might stumble upon it like in a couple years. You never know. So
Yeah.
somebody is gonna listen to it and is gonna resonate with it and is gonna be so appreciative that you shared your story and that they won't feel as alone. So, because it is a lonely process.
It's so lonely. So to end our episode, we got to do our 2 truths and a hormone. So my 2 truths and a hormone for the week.
We didn't do this last week.
Oh, that's right. We didn't, because we did 2 truths and a lie. That's right.
Yeah. So 2 truths and a hormone is going to be our segment that we do at the end of our episodes, and it's, our truths of like the last week. Something good. It can be maybe something not great. I don't know, just something that happened during the week, and then your hormone is like that thing that you cried because you I don't know, spilled milk or whatever, and you lashed out for your hair was touching your face. I don't know, just something that's like really like, okay, that was definitely a little bit of a hormonal response.
So my 2 truths are, we went and saw the live action How to Train Your Dragon 2 days in a row, because we were that excited to see it. Really, it was because we saw it one day and then went with people who hadn't gone the second day. But here's a truth. We are distantly related to the main actor for How to Train Your Dragon live action.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek when I say that we're related. So Scott's dad loves to remind us that it's like a cousin's wife by marriage's uncle's grandson's nephew's cousin.
Okay.
Or something like that, right?
Okay.
So, but it's a truth. Yeah. And then my other truth is we have started, I have, taking Bella driving in deserted parking lots. She turns 15 on October. And I am not about to give her a learner's permit at 15 and say, okay, drive. So we started that, and I am shocked I'm not in a neck brace from whiplash. We have not quite figured out the sensitivity of the brakes. So there's that, but she's doing pretty good. And then my hormone, I kind of had two. One was actually on Monday when we were going to be recording this podcast. I was like crying overhearing our intro, and I actually listened to the first episode of our podcast, and so I was like boohooing and crying. And then I guess it was Tuesday when I messaged you. Right, today's Wednesday. Yeah, it was Tuesday. The true hormone showed up because we were laying in bed trying to watch TV. It wasn't working or whatever, and Scott's drinking his soda and he's like slurping through it. Like when it first opens, he's like, but I can't do the noise. Like he slurps through it, and I wanted to shove that up his nose. Because why he had to drink so loud in that moment, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. They always do it in the most inconvenient times.
Luckily, I did not react. And I just was like,
yeah.
So.
The dirt, the side eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your two truths in hormone?
My two truths, so I've been trying to mute myself, but if you're watching the YouTube video, you've seen me cough. So I've been sick for like the last week. I'm on the up. I still have like the cough and everything. So my first truth is it is so freaking hard to be a parent and be sick at the same time. Like, I don't know how single parents do it. Y'all are absolutely rock stars because it is so freaking hard with a partner. I can't even imagine. Like, it's a lot to try and take care of yourself while also trying to take care of a human. It's a lot.
So now that you've been sick, wait until Jake is sick, and then you're gonna be like, I was sick and I did all this and
I know. The man flu.
Yeah.
And then my other truth is, so Loden has been, he's been having purees since he was like 6 months old. But we started some like actual like solid foods this week.
How's that going?
We tried some green beans yesterday, and like he got some of like the little beans out of it, and I saw it floating in his mouth, and I went Merp, and I took it out of his mouth because it freaked me out that he was gonna choke on it.
No, he wouldn't.
And then he had some avocado slices today,
Okay.
and he did really good. He was actually like biting some of it off, like chewing it. But then there came a point where he looked like he was gonna vomit, like he was like gagging, and then just kind of was giving me a look, and so then I went into panic mode, and I was like, oh my god, he is choking, what do I do? And he ended up being fine. He was like making noises still, and like obviously I could see he was breathing, like he was fine, but like it is absolutely terrifying. So
it is
just keep us in your thoughts as we are on this journey now, because it is absolutely terrifying.
We're gonna have an episode where it's just me, and I'm gonna say, well, Haley's in a 72-hour hold.
Yeah. It's just okay. And then my hormone, right before this, I got on this podcast you know what I'm saying, to record this podcast. I almost went into like rage cleaning mode. I don't know if you ever get those. I didn't have time to actually do it, but
well, I'm glad I could be a distraction. I'm glad my mess up took you away.
Yeah, there's stuff on the counter. I saw the dog bowl. I was like, the dog bowl needs cleaned. Like all of the like just rage clean. Like everything is just like overwhelming, and so that's my hormone for the week. It was a lot, but.
Well, I hate that we had to do this, but I'm glad that we got to re-record this. And so next week, you will be in the spotlight with your story. Yeah, how are you feeling about that? Are you excited? Are you nervous?
I'm excited and nervous. Like I mentioned last week, have a little bit more controversy related things in my journey. And so a little nervous about that. But I am excited to kind of walk through it beginning to end, because I haven't ever I haven't done that.
Yeah.
I literally
haven't.
Not I haven't spoken it from beginning to end before, so this will be like the first time that really diving into it. So it'll be
there is something though I will tell you that's, I don't want to say liberating, that's not the right word, but so much like you'll say it and you're gonna look back, like the podcast will end and you're gonna look back, and I hope for you, because it's happened to me every time I tell my story, and I'm like, wow, it wasn't just a little bit that I like to put it all in perspective and be like, I went through a lot and I came out the other end. Because one thing, I mean, every month, this breaks me every month.
Yeah.
But then it puts me back together in a different way. And to just look back and be like, it's okay that I still cry telling this story, because yeah, it's been a year since my first loss, but it hasn't been a year since my second or my third, and
Yeah.
just being like, wow, you went through all that and you're here.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you go through it and you struggle. I mean, there are definitely
Yeah.
times that I struggle too, but I think it will be very liberating for you to tell it all and just be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
wow, I am a
I'm excited.
badass.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear it. Yeah. I think it's I think it does make it maybe a little bit easier. At least in my head, I'm like, oh, it'll probably be a little easier because I'm kind of on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
kind of in the middle, like on the other side, but like potentially
Doing it again. Yeah.
still in it. So yeah, I'm excited. But
Good.
thank you everybody for
Yes. Thank y'all for
listening.
listening.
If
And
you haven't listened to our very first episode, if you're for some reason listening to this one first, make sure you go check that out. It's on Spotify and YouTube right now. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook at Two Truths and a Hormone, all spelled out. And then if you have any, want to share your story or have any questions or anything, we also have our email, which is twotruthsandahormone@gmail.com that you can send us email at. So,
yeah.
Anything else? Oh, leave us a review on
Yes.
on this episode, but also last week's
Yeah.
episode.
I did a 5-star review on our first
Yeah,
episode, just
yes,
FYI. And you know what?
still need to go do mine.
Leave your comments and all the things. And if this is just not for you and doesn't resonate for you, no problems. Just keep on going.
Keep
'Cause
on
I'm pretty
going.
sure none of your comments can beat us up more than we beat ourselves
Yeah,
up. So
yeah, absolutely.
awesome.
All right,
Well,
thanks,
thank you so
Susanne.
much.
We'll talk to you
Yay.
later. Bye.
Bye.